Welcome to your channel. My name is Matthias. Today we're going to talk about Excalibur issues 72 to 74, a story written by Richard Ashford, who I'm not too familiar with his work at all. We have art by Ken Lashley. So this would be the first story arc of a new era for Excalibur. After Fatal Attractions, basically the whole team just fell apart. Now we have just 3 core members: Shadowcat, Phoenix, who is Rachel Summers, and Nightcrawler. Now, one of the big changes that we have right off the bat is that Excalibur are now stationed in Muir Island, and they are working with Moira McTaggart. Oh, and I almost forgot. During this time, Lockheed is not an official member of Excalibur. She's basically Shadowcat's pet, but he's always hanging around with the team. But during this particular phase of Excalibur, you're almost never going to see Lockheed. In these issues, Kitty Pryde is going to reference that Lockheed is there, but he has just found his very own place, so he basically doesn't show up. So this particular story arc starts with Excalibur. They're training with virtual reality, and Moira's just putting them through the ringer. Now, one of the big things that this story is going to focus on is that Moira is still dealing with the death of her son, the reality warping Proteus, and so we get the origins to the character through exposition when she's talking about this with members of Excalibur. And they explain why he was so dangerous. And the thing is that Moira feels that she has totally failed his son, that she wasn't able to help him deal with his powers. While at the same time, we have the 90s character, because I've never seen him out of this particular era of X-Men in general, the Gamemaster. He was this mutant that basically was an omnipath. He had access to everyone's mind on planet Earth, and this was driving him crazy. So he creates this whole game to keep his mind focused and not lose himself. And he creates this persona of the Gamemaster. Now, this game was super evil, and he had a group of individuals that won points by hunting down mutants. Gamemaster would put a mark on a specific character, and the players of this game, who would call themselves the upstarts, would try to kill that particular character. And it had a point system that made zero sense. Some of the players were Fabian Cortez, Gaiden Creed, Shinobi Shaw, I think possibly Gideon too. If it wasn't Gideon, it was Trevor Fitzroy. The thing is that another one of the members was Sienna Blaze, a character that I didn't care for too much, except for the fact that after her first couple appearances in Marvel, she will end up in the Malibu universe of comics. She will be teleported there with Juggernaut, Grim Reaper, also Black Knight from the Avengers would end up in Malibu for a while, Cersei too. Now, back with the Gamemaster himself, we had a big mystery. Who the hell was this guy in the first place? Because he looked like a evil version of Xavier. And the payoff to that mystery, I remember falling really flat with me. I didn't like what they went for. We're going to talk about that in another video that took place in the pages of X-Force. The thing is, here, Gamemaster is forging an alliance with Mr. Sinister. They have decided to work together. For some reason, Gamemaster needs something from Mr. Sinister, so he's going to send Sienna Blaze to Muir Island to steal the genetic mapping of Proteus. The Sinister being Sinister, he wants to know what was his genetic makeup. So the thing is that Sienna is sent to Muir Island. Now, Sienna Blaze herself, the way she's written, she's very obnoxious. She's like a evil valley girl, basically. I don't know her origins per se, but she's always dropping references to Beverly Hills 90210. We're coming off her first appearance where she tried to kill Cyclops and Storm, but failed. But Sienna is really powerful. She can cause electromagnetic explosions so powerful that they actually hurt the ozone layer. So what happens is she knows that there are superheroes on Muir Island that might try to protect Moira McTaggart. So she creates a distraction to get the members of Excalibur out of there. She creates an explosion on an oil rig. So obviously, our heroes being heroes, they jump into action, they start rescuing people. Oh, I forgot to mention something gigantic happens in this issue, especially retroactively, knowing the context of Krakoa that took place almost 30 years later. Gamemaster actually puts a hit on Moira, and Sienna's like, but she's not a mutant. And Gamemaster actually drops the idea that she doesn't appear to be a mutant, but she is potentially a mutant, therefore a viable target. I wonder, like, there's a lot of references to how Moira was during the Krakoan age. I wonder if Hickman picked up on all these little breadcrumbs that we had over the years with Moira. So what happens is Sienna confronts Moira. She's able to get her hands on the CD with the genetic information of Proteus. Excalibur have a hard time dealing with Blaze because, again, she's very powerful. Even Rachel Summers, who is super OP, has a hard time taking her down. Now, I do have to mention that Phoenix's powers are sort of on the fritz during this time. Ever since Excalibur were able to defeat Ahab in the future and they had returned to the present, Captain Britain had been lost in the time stream. Somehow Rachel and Captain Britain become like temporally intertwined, a very comic booky thing. But the thing is that when Rachel goes too hard with her powers, she starts manifesting Captain Britain in the first place, and she doesn't know what to do with the situation because she doesn't know what's actually happening, and she's afraid, like, if Captain Britain totally remanifests, what's going to happen with her? So obviously Phoenix is going to be able to defeat Blaze, but before she does, Sienna actually slashes at her face, and she loses the disc, but she's able to escape, and she returns to Mr. Sinister, and even though she failed her mission, Sinister's actually pretty happy because he did not have any type of genetic information on Rachel Summers. So Sinister discovers that she's from a future timeline. I have no idea how Sinister realizes that she's from another timeline. Comic book science, I guess. He is super happy with this revelation, especially the fact that he discovers that she's the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey. Also, during this story, we have the introduction of Roy Campbell, a new scientist that's going to work on Muir Island. That during the battle between Excalibur and Sienna, the guy's almost killed on a ferry ride going to Muir Island. So he wasn't too happy with his first interaction with the team. The thing is that it's very apparent, and the writer is going to waste no time establishing that Roy Campbell is going to become Ahab. And way too quickly, we have the scenario where Rachel also realizes that she's sort of falling in love with Roy Campbell as the issues progress. And she knows he's going to become Ahab. And the last thing that I wanted to mention, because I think it's pretty fascinating, when Captain Britain was lost in the time stream, which happened off panel, his partner, Megan, who is this shape-shifting empath, she reverts back to her original appearance, which is like this weird type of fairy monster. And we get this really cool explanation by Moira where she explains that since she was an empath, her whole personality and identity didn't really exist per se. It was all tied to since she loved Brian Braddock so much and she had this great deal of gratitude because Brian had saved her life. Just to cater to Captain Britain's emotional needs, that basically her personality didn't really exist. So now we have this grief-stricken Megan who basically is a monster now. She has sort of lost herself and her identity. But we're going to cover that in the next video that I'm going to do on Excalibur. So I hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye.